This is not just a story. It is the hidden secret of my parents. Today, you will hear the truth that stayed buried for years within the silence of these walls. And believe me, when you listen, tears will flow from your eyes. Get ready, because this secret will shake you to the core. After many years, when I stepped into that street again, every brick felt as if it recognized me. It was the same old house, the same rusted door, but the life that once lived inside it was gone. After my parents' death, I had never returned here. Now circumstances had forced me back. As I opened the door, a thick layer of dust greeted me, as if time had been standing still for years. With every step, memories awakened, the living room where my father used to read the newspaper, and the kitchen where my mother's voice once echoed. The neighbors came to help with the cleaning. Everyone showed sympathy, shared old memories, someone asked about tea, someone offered comfort. Their presence gave me strength. For the first 3 days, everything felt normal. I had the house cleaned, arranged the belongings, and fixed the broken windows. I did not remove the old photographs hanging on the walls. My parents' smiling faces felt as if they were watching me. But at night, the silence felt strange. Sometimes the floor creaked, sometimes the wind moved the curtains. I kept telling myself it was an old house, there would be sounds. Still, a faint fear began to grow inside me. Especially those photographs. Ordinary during the day, but at night, it felt as if their eyes followed me. I promised myself it was just my imagination, but the days that followed proved that this house was not made of bricks alone, it was a dwelling of secrets. On the fourth morning, I noticed that one of my parents' photographs in the living room was slightly crooked. I clearly remembered straightening it the day before. I adjusted the frame again and ignored it. But that night, just as I was about to sleep, I heard a faint sound on the glass, like someone lightly scratching it with a fingernail. My heart started pounding. The next morning, the photograph had changed again. This time the frame was perfectly straight, but the expressions were not. There was sadness in my mother's eyes and a strange seriousness on my father's face. Sweat broke out on my forehead. I changed the lighting and examined the picture closely, but I couldn't find any technical reason for it. A neighbor aunt said, "Child, photographs get damaged because of moisture." I nodded, but my heart was not convinced. That same evening, I noticed a faint crack in another photograph, as if the glass could no longer withstand pressure from inside. That night, I dreamed that my mother was calling me, her voice heavy and full of pain. I woke up screaming. In front of me on the wall was the same photograph, but my mother's lips were slightly parted, as if she was trying to say something. For the first time, I accepted that this was not just imagination. The photographs were trying to say something, whispering to me. The question was, what? Now the photographs were not only changing, they were moving. During the day, there was a slight tremble. At night, the movement became clear. One night, I saw it with my own eyes. My father's eyes in the photograph slowly turned toward the door. My breath stopped. I quickly turned on the light, and the picture returned to normal. But I knew then that a truth was being hidden. I decided to take the photographs down and place them in a storage chest. The moment I touched one of the frames, a wave of cold spread from my hand through my entire body. It felt as if someone had grabbed my hand. I dropped the frame in panic. There was a strange feeling in my heart, fear mixed with a sense of closeness. That same night, all the photographs began to shake at once. Cracks appeared on the glass. My parents' faces started to distort, as if they were in pain. I sank to the floor, a loud ringing filling my ears. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. Silence. When I looked at myself in the mirror, my face was pale. I finally understood that these were not just memories, they were messages. There was a truth that wanted to come out, and the photographs were its voice. I decided to speak to our old neighbor, Haji Sahib. There was hesitation in his voice. At first, he tried to avoid the topic, but then he slowly said, "Your parents were very good people. But their death was not an accident." After saying that, he fell silent. When I pressed further, fear appeared on his face. He said, "Some secrets are meant to stay buried." That same evening, it started to rain. Through the heavy rain, I saw a shadow outside the house, a man standing at the corner of the street. As that shadow moved closer, the photographs inside the house began to change. Now they showed pain, fear, and silent screams. I felt as if my parents were warning me. I heard footsteps at the door, but when I opened it, there was no one there. I couldn't sleep that night. I was certain now that someone was connected to this house, and that person held the key to the secret. The next day, the same man came to my door. He introduced himself as my father's old friend. There was a strange hardness in his eyes. The moment he stepped inside, the temperature of the room seemed to change. In the photograph hanging on the wall, blackness began to drip from my mother's eyes. The man glanced at the picture and froze for a brief moment, clearly shaken, then quickly regained his composure. My heart screamed in terror. I remained silent, but inside me, everything was falling apart. I was certain now that he was the one. My parents' spirits were restless, and the photographs were screaming the truth at me without a single word. That night, I could no longer remain silent. The restlessness of the photographs had become unbearable. I began taking down each frame and examining it carefully. When I removed the last picture, I noticed a faint crack in the wall behind it. My heart started pounding. I slowly slipped my finger into the crack, and an old envelope came out. Inside it were several papers, some with dates written on them, others filled with handwritten threats. My breath caught when I read a name. It was the same name as the man who had come to the house claiming to be my father's friend. The letters clearly stated that my parents had refused to hide a major secret. They were threatened, intimidated, and finally silenced. I began to tremble. Before my eyes, the scene of the day played out: screams, fear, and helplessness. That was when I understood why the photographs kept changing. Before dying, my parents had bound their souls to those photographs so that the truth would never be buried. Whenever the killer came near, their spirits became restless, and that unrest revealed itself through the pictures. This was no coincidence, it was their final testimony. I sank to the floor, tears streaming down my face. But along with the fear, there was a strange sense of strength inside me. Now I knew what I had to do. This secret could no longer remain trapped within the photographs. In the morning, I gathered my courage and handed all the evidence over to the police: the letters, the photographs, and my statement. At first, they were skeptical, but the evidence was so clear that denial was impossible. Within a few days, the man was arrested. Watching him being handcuffed, I felt a burden that had weighed on me for years finally lift. That night, I sat alone in the house. Strangely, there was no fear anymore. The photographs on the walls were silent, but their silence felt peaceful. Slowly, one by one, the pictures began to change, this time not into something terrifying, but into something calm. The kindness returned to my mother's eyes, and the familiar smile reappeared on my father's face. A gentle breeze passed through the room, and the curtains moved softly, as if someone were saying goodbye. I stepped closer to the photograph and placed my hand on the glass. Tears flowed, but my heart was at peace. It felt as if my parents had finally been set free. The next morning, sunlight filled the house. After years, the house felt like a home again, not a grave. I decided that I would not leave this place. It was my parents' legacy, and now it was no longer a place of fear, but a place of truth. The photographs no longer move, but sometimes I feel as if they are smiling at me, grateful that their secret has finally come to light.